everybody, I am Tiffany, and today I am doing another book review. And this book review is a semi-special occasion because this marks the ending of my Y'all West pile. Yay! Celebration, celebration, whoop whoop, whoop whoop. I've had this pile, you can't see it, but it's on like top of this thing. That's from a festival called Y'all West, which I went to in like May, and I finally finished the last book in that pile. So I was very, very proud of myself that I got through that pile. It was a really good pile. It was just so daunting to see all of those books stacked up, and now they are finally all completed. I feel accomplished in my life. The book that I am reviewing today is Furthermore by Tahereh Mafi. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but she's the one who wrote the Shatter Me series, and this is her newest book. It is a middle grade fantasy standalone, I believe. I know that some of you are probably like, oh no, it's a middle grade book. But here's the thing, is that middle grade to me usually means that it's like the protagonist is like middle school level age. It's not like the story isn't good just because the protagonist is younger. Percy Jackson, the first series, that's middle grade. That's middle grade. And then the second half of the series, he's young adult. So just saying, don't discount it just because it's a middle grade book. I have not read the Shatter Me series. I know, shame on me. It's on my never-ending list. But I was really excited when I got an arc for this. I have been wanting to read Tahereh Mafi for a while because I heard her writing is absolutely beautiful and amazing, and I cannot wait to jump in. And this, her writing, lived up to it completely. This is what made the book for me, was seeing how she wrote. The way she did the narrator in the story is just absolutely awesome and fantastic, and that's what kept me reading throughout this entire thing, was just how beautiful and fun the writing was. I love it when authors do that because it makes you feel more involved. So Furthermore got a 4.03 on Goodreads, which is pretty good. I overall really did enjoy it. It was a little bit confusing, but it was still overall really fun. Would I say this book is for everybody? I'm not really sure. It is kind of weird and quirky and out there. A lot of it is based off of world building. And I'm used to giant fantasy novels where world building is so prominent, and that's sometimes the best part. For me, reading a fantasy novel is learning about the world and getting invested in it. It's so cool to me. This one, it was interesting, but the world is just weird and wacky, but it's still super duper fun. I would say give it a chance, but I just don't know if it is for everybody. It is quirky in a way, but I overall really enjoyed the world building in this. So Furthermore follows this girl. She's on the cover. Woo! Her name is Alice Alexis Queensmeadow, and she lives in this world called Farrenwood, and Farrenwood thrives off of color and magic, and Alice is born colorless, which is very unusual. About 3 years ago, before this book takes place, her father, who she loves very much, ends up disappearing. But then she gets an opportunity with this young boy named Oliver, who's your second important character in this book, to go and find her father, and they have to travel to this mysterious magical land called Furthermore, which nobody really knows anything about. That's really all I can tell you without spoiling you, really. Again, her writing is fantastic. Overall, the story is super duper cute. It's a lot about friendship. The world can be a little bit confusing, and it is out there, so I don't necessarily think it's for everybody, but I think it's super duper fun. I really liked it. Give this book a chance. Go get it, read it. I think you'll really, really like it, and let me know what you think. And if you don't like it, well, I warned you it was weird, so you can't be mad at me and say, Tiffany, this is going to be the best book ever. I told you it might not be for you. But if you do love it, then, you know, a comment would be nice saying that I was right. That would be great. just kidding. Thank you, non-spoilery people, for joining me today. Come back when you have read Furthermore, and then we can talk and discuss about all the feels in this book. All right, thank you for joining me. Goodbye. Spoilery time! This book was super duper fun, like I said, but I did really mean it, where I feel like The writing style itself is what carried me through this book. I will not lie, this book took me a little while to get through. It wasn't that I wasn't enjoying it. I did really enjoy it, like I said, but it wasn't one of those books where I just couldn't put it down. Like, I could put it down and I would go a couple days without reading and then pick it back up. The storyline itself, it is really interesting and unique, and I really do like how different the world is. I wish I would have learned a little bit more about Farronwood. I'm like really sad this is a standalone because I can see actually so much potential for multiple books in this series. Like, there's so many different questions that the world building brings up, and there's so much more to explore in each world that you could definitely do a ton of more books on this, and I don't think there's going to be a sequel to this unless I'm wrong. Am I wrong? But I did want to learn a lot more about Farronwood and where Alice came from. You get that they're very close with like the animals, and you know that color is really important, and you learn that there's this whole history between Furthermore and Farronwood, but you learn about it very briefly and you don't get into it more so, and I really wish that could have been explored more. I wanted to learn about Farronwood's history just as much as I wanted to learn about Furthermore's history. I mean, yes, you get a story about why they separated, but I want to get into it more and you discover more clues about it. Just the overall world building was a little bit choppy, I guess. The world of Furthermore is very, very interesting. I was really excited. At the beginning, they said that Oliver had to travel through 68 different towns. Like, I didn't think we were going to hit every one, but I was like, oh, that's so cool that each town has their own set of rules and that you get to learn about each town as you go along. You did get that. You did get all these crazy different worlds, like the two-dimensional world, the town of Slumber, the town of Still, the town of Left. You do get those different worlds, but you go through them really quickly, I think, and don't really explore the towns as much. And I don't think they went through as many towns as I actually would have liked. I would have loved to see a ton more crazy different stuff. And I think that's part of Furthermore, is this chaotic nature of not understanding what the heck is going on. It just was really confusing because you would learn the rules of one town maybe, but then there'd be this whole other random rule for Furthermore. It was confusing. I don't even know how to explain it, really. I liked how with the rulers, like the Tibbins, I guess, that are put on there, how they came into play. I thought that was really, really cool, and I thought that was unique. But then you had like the down drop emergency thing that came up randomly. I just felt like a lot of stuff wasn't explained, and it was just thrown at you really quickly. And you're like, oh, okay, this is a thing now, cool. With like the drop down exit thing or whatever. I know I'm not saying it right. You do it once, but then you never do it again. And I'm like, then if you're gonna establish that, put it again in the book. You did get rules, but it's like you use them once and then done. I feel like it would have been a little bit better if it was like you went from Town 1, Slumber, learn all their types of rules, explore there for a little bit, which they kind of did, and then you go to the land of Still and learn their rules specifically and a little bit of that type of thing. And then next town and learning their rules. So it's like each town has their own set of rules, which is what they were doing kind of at the beginning, but then it just got chaotic and random rules of Furthermore. Like, I think the very beginning, from going to Slumber to learning a little bit about Furthermore into Still, that was really, really neat. Once it got to Tim, the guy whose time, basically, that's when it started getting a little bit too chaotic and like, wait, what the heck is going on? What I did really love, though, the character development in this book was so good. All of the characters I really, really liked. Alice, my main character, I loved her. I thought she was a great character. She was strong. You could see the desire for her to want to be the hero. And it was really nice because she wasn't the perfect hero. She was making a ton of mistakes, and Oliver had to save her multiple times. But that made her even more likable because you could tell she was trying and she was passionate. It was this nice balance between not being the perfect hero cliche of them doing everything right, but also not being so unhelpful to the point of irritation. I really liked the development of Oliver too. I would have liked a little bit more of his backstory maybe, but the story centered around Alice, so that made perfect sense. You definitely felt for him too. You didn't get his whole backstory, but you got his sense of abandonment. Yes, he's kind of testy with her at first and does lie to her, but you can also tell that he does really care for Alice, and he's afraid that she's gonna leave if he doesn't lie. And I just loved the relationship between these two. It was a really sweet friendship overall, and I really, really enjoyed it. Going back to the worlds a little bit, like I said, after you meet Tim, it gets really chaotic. First of all, you have this random paper fox, which comes out of nowhere, which I actually found kind of cute at first until I saw what it did. And Alice, being upset, decides to follow the fox and ends up coming across this world thinking that the fox is leading her to her father. And the fox tries to pull her into this world. Now, this book had some dark elements that I was not expecting, and they were lightly touched upon, but I was like, oh my gosh! And the first one has to do with that town. As you see Alice, she's turning into this two-dimensional figure, so you're kind of freaking out. But then what happens? The fox grabs her arm, which is like a paper two-dimensional thing, and rips it off. And I'm reading it, and all it says is, you hear a rip. And I'm just like, I was like, no. This is a middle grade book, which is this happy, light fantasy. There's no way her arm got pulled off, but it did. And I literally was in shock for a couple minutes that just happened. Rewind, please. I need to see it. Replay. What? How's her arm gone? And then she didn't have an arm for most of the book until the very, very end. The other dark element is that these people in this town of Furthermore eat visitors. They are cannibals. I could not believe that was in this book. Just because the tone of this book completely contrasts that. If you read the first few pages, you can tell it's a lighter fantasy novel. You do not expect an arm to get ripped off and the people in this Furthermore land to be cannibals. All right, the other thing I want to talk about is the ending. This is one thing why I'm not a huge fan of standalone fantasy novels, because again, fantasy novels, a big part of them is that world building and becoming invested in this giant made-up world that this author has created. So that's why most fantasy books are series. Like, they're not a standalone, because it's so hard to have this whole giant adventure with this amazing world building and wrap it up really, really well. Some of the best fantasy series, like Mistborn, for example, like, yes, the first book, if you've read it, mini spoiler, I'm not going to spoil the end. The main adventure in Mistborn does come to an end in Mistborn, but it still has an element in it that causes the second book and the third book to happen. So not everything is completely wrapped up yet, and that's what usually happens. And this book kind of did that in a sense of there's still so much more that can be done, and you're not going to be able to see that. And it kind of started with when they find the father. You are waiting for them to find Alice's father. But they jump into the painting in order to get her arm fixed, and I liked it and I didn't like it at the same time. I thought it was really, really cool, actually, how the twist was that the painter that they've been looking for ends up being the dad. But at the same time, I felt like it was a little anticlimactic. Like, they've been building up to trying to find the father, trying to get her arm painted, and then all of a sudden it's like 2 in 1. Oh, there's the dad! I feel like it would have been better if what came after it was more climactic. So say you find the father. Fine, I really like that. The painter is the father. That's actually a really unique idea and cool. There's no conflict at the end. Does that make sense? Like, once they find the dad, I'm expecting you're gonna have to find this crazy way to get out of Furthermore. But it doesn't happen. They have this nice little reunion that's described, and then Oliver opens his map and they're just able to go back to Farronwood. Really? That's it? Because Furthermore is so crazy, I'm expecting this conflict to get out too. Like, they're hinting the whole time that they use magic to see the future, and that their whole traveling, Oliver and Alice's traveling, is basically being planned out by the elders of Furthermore. Like, I would not expect them to be able to just leave that easily. I'd expect they tried to stop them or something. I mean, I wanted them to get back to Farronwood, don't get me wrong. I just wanted it to be more climactic and satisfying at the end. Now, one thing I will give though, because usually in those type of situations, it's a wrap-up book. That's what I call those endings where you skip ahead a little bit and they said, this happened, this happened, this happened, the end, happily ever after. I hate those endings. I want to see everything played out. Tahereh Mafi did that. You see the moments where Alice sees her mom again after running away. And you see that moment where her mom breaks down crying and hugs her. You don't get to see the reunion with the dad, but the story isn't focused on the dad completely. It's about Alice and her relationships. So I really did appreciate it that it wasn't just a quick wrap-up thing. Okay, that's the end. The last thing with the ending is that it's very open-ended. That's why I want another one. Because you find out after she failed her surrender, that she can try again the following year at the very end of the book. And you know she's going to, and you know she's going to get a new adventure. And I'm like, I want to see the adventure. Now, if I'm completely wrong and this isn't a standalone and Goodreads is lying to me, then please let me know if she's planning to write a second book to this, because there's just so many open questions. But there's a lot of questions that I still have about the book, and I wish I could get them all answered, and I'm not going to. That's basically all I have to say about this book. It was confusing and there were elements that confused me, but I still did really enjoy it, and the chaos of it did work with it, and it could be that was the complete purpose, because furthermore it's supposed to be this crazy land. You should definitely go and read it yourself. It's very interesting, very different, creative world building. It didn't flow completely, but it's still very interesting. Read it yourself and create your own opinion of it. And let me know what you think of it in the comments. That's awesome. I love reading your comments, so don't be afraid to leave one. Thank you for joining me today. If you have any other book or movie recommendations, please leave them in the comments below and let me know, and I will do a review on them for you definitely eventually in the future. I really appreciate you all joining in sort of every week. They're really fun to make, and I really hope you enjoy them too. So thank you. Just thank you so much for watching them. It's a lot of fun. Have a wonderful day, evening, afternoon, whatever time you're watching this. And don't forget to be awesome. All right, goodbye.